All right, so I'm doing these budget turkeys. The reality is Escambia County has a lot of turkeys in our budget, and it's really why we can't cut anything. During the last election, the guy that was running against me famously said, it's really hard to cut stuff because everything has a constituency. Well, that's exactly what's wrong with government. The reality is that we don't have the money to spend on our roads and bridges and on our public safety because we keep spending it on other things. So many of my turkeys that I brought up are really just graft and really, basically buying votes with your dollars. This one really isn't that. This is a turkey that exists just because it's the way we've always done it. And what I'm talking about is the fireworks show in downtown Pensacola. The way that this has always worked is there's this really awesome organization called Sartoma that gets $100,000, sometimes $75,000 from the county to put on a fireworks show down in the city. Now, many years ago, when there wasn't any other fireworks shows, that was probably a significant thing. But the reality is, we've got one out at the Floribama, we've got a big one that goes at Portofino. I mean, there's fireworks shows on 4th of July all over the county, and it is not appropriate anymore for the county to be funding the fireworks show that we do in the city. Especially when you look at how this money actually, what happens to the money after we give it to Sartoma. The county pays Sartoma to put on the fireworks show, again, in the city, and then Sartoma spends money paying the city of Pensacola for things like barriers, porta potties, police service, and things like that. If there needs to be a fireworks show in the city, put on by the city, then the city ought to go ahead and pay for it. That wouldn't be a big problem, and then you could easily say that there might be a contribution from our tourism development tax. But when we have all of these other fireworks shows to continue to fund this one with taxpayer dollars when all the rest of them are done with private dollars, simply makes no sense at all. And then you know what the argument's going to be. Every time that you bring up something like a $75,000 waste of money, well, that's not going to balance the budget. Well, that's a typical argument for people when you start trying to tighten the belt financially. No one thing will balance the budget. But when you're dieting, it's the Coke you don't drink or the piece of cake that you don't eat. That's the one that gets you to start dropping weight. Well, we need a diet in our budget. We are so accustomed to gorging ourselves on taxpayer dollars that we need to start cutting back, and we need to start cutting back very quickly. So this one is a great one in that it's very easy to cut back on. Most of this money gets actually handed over to the city for them to do their part of putting on their fireworks show. We can just as easily hand the whole thing over to the city and say, city, if you want to put on a fireworks show, do it with your own money. Thanks.